Hello, my name is Jackman and I am doing research topic number 6D. Before I begin this presentation, it is important to create an understanding of the background of the topic. So first of all, we'll look at why supply selection process is important. Nowadays, companies hope to establish long-term working relationships with suppliers. Therefore, supply selection plays a big part in supply chain management. Now, we'll look at the background information.
Identifying suppliers and evaluating them has long been a fundamental aspect of supply chain management, and it is a very important process for organizations. Selection is one of the main parts of decision making in supply chain management as the decisions relate to purchasing strategies and authorization, and it is a primary determinant of profitability and helps the company in the long run to maintain stability. There are 7 different steps that are involved in the selection and evaluation process of identifying a supplier. As seen on the picture, they include acknowledging the need for supply sourcing, determining criteria for supply sourcing, identifying sources of potential suppliers, shortlisting the suppliers into a selection pool, determining the methodology to assess and evaluate suppliers, and then selecting the supplier and coming up with a contract agreement, and lastly, evaluating the supplier. The first step of the supply sourcing selection process is acknowledging the need for supply sourcing. This is the basic step or the beginning of the process. This is where organizations realize the need for change, identify and solve solutions to management issues, and obviously starting a new company and finding a partner that they can source with. The second step in the process is identifying a supplier and determining criteria for supply sourcing. This is the process that involves identifying what criteria, strengths or weaknesses of the sources. This can include using quantitative and qualitative factors such as price, so how cost effective, technological capabilities, so are they up to date or modern, delivery requiring on time, so are they efficient, are they flexible, and quality of the product. The third step in the process is identifying the source of supplier potential. This can be done through various forms such as researching into the company. So this can be done through recommendations, talking to other organizations about the supplier, trade associations, so if there's specific or particular trade industry that the supplier is part of, or through trade press. So this can be done through looking at magazines and other articles about the supplier. The fourth step in the supply selection process is to shortlist the suppliers into a selection pool. This is where you shortlist to 4 or 5 suppliers that you want to choose from, and then further ask the questions such as, can these suppliers deliver? So can they meet our needs and wants? Are they financially secure? So what's their business cycle like? How long have they been in the industry? So reputation's always built with time and endurance. Or are they part of any government or trade associations that are ethical? The fifth step is to determine a methodology to assess and evaluate the suppliers. This is usually done through a questionnaire or a survey. The survey should consider all facets of the supply chain and ask questions regarding the following 4 criteria. Feasibility, so does the company have the ability to produce efficiently and deliver quickly when required? Capacity, do they have the resources to satisfy our demand? Maturity, is the supply independent enough to be stable when there is economic instability? Or capacity, how excessive our demands can be met? The second last step of the selection and evaluation process of identifying a supplier is selecting a supplier and coming up with a contract agreement. This process involves the following: getting a quotation, so talking to the supplier about a long-term pricing strategy, conducting B2B meetings, so meeting up with the supplier, judging them on face value and finding them what they're about. Also looking at final flaws, so remember that reputation is always built with time, so looking at how ethical their practices are. And lastly, coming up with the contract. So this can be done through looking at terms and conditions about a contract and negotiating them with the supplier. The last step of the supply selection and evaluation process is evaluating the supplier. This process can include identifying goals at the start of the contract and then working to meeting these goals. So this can be done through looking at the SMART references, so looking at our costs at the start of the contract and then comparing them maybe 6 months down the track. Furthermore, looking at revenue, so how much we've been able to raise in terms of revenue when working with the supplier, or also looking at market share, which relates to revenue and how much we've been able to accomplish, and also looking at capacity production, so how much we've been able to produce when working with the suppliers. The benefits for a process like this nowadays is that it's very cost effective. This means that using the correct suppliers that produces efficiently and satisfies the company's needs, firms will be able to make goods at a lower cost and thus result in raising revenue. Furthermore, this process allows for companies to maintain cost in the longer term, allowing for economies of scale and efficient labor productivity. Lastly, one of the major benefits is that the companies have the potential to improve services and thus improving their customer service, resulting in delivering profit for the company. As you can see, these 7 steps play a really big role in identifying a supplier for an organization. Furthermore, their benefits are really important for an organization because they lead to delivering better customer service and improving their services for the organization, resulting in making profit and attracting more consumers to their company. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to my speech. That's all I have for today's presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. The next slide will contain my reference list for the assignment.